So, necessity being the mother of invention, I'm trying to come up with a pumpkin spice kind of cake with the limited ingredients that I have on hand. And that is to say, a can of pumpkin and some gluten-free pancake mix. My plan is to add milk and eggs to make it fluffy and some spices to just kind of bring the whole thing together. Should turn out kind of more or less like a pumpkin spice pound cake type thing. I decided to put it into this. Originally, I was going to use a loaf pan because I kind of wanted a tall cake so that you could get really thin coffee cake kind of slices. But this should make it come out thinner so that I can spread more icing on it. I'm also planning on making some sort of cream cheese based icing for it. We'll see how that turns out. Okay, so now I have basically put together the dry ingredients, which is the pumpkin, the 3 eggs, and a bunch of half and half. I don't really know about how much, but probably close to a quarter of a cup. I put in some vanilla to make it have more of a punch, and cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and nutmeg. Want to show you that it kind of has a creamy consistency, but I haven't added the pancake mix, which is going to be the binder to make it more cake-like. Then I don't want it to be puddingy or sticky. I want it to be fluffy, so I'm just going to mix in a little bit of pancake mix at a time and add more half and half until I get it about the consistency I want. That's something that should look a lot like a cake batter. Also, I want to take note, there is some ginger in here, as I mentioned, not to be confused with this ginger. Yes, that ginger. This Spice Cat. And it has nutmeg in it. Nutmeg. Not to be confused with Nutmeg the cat. See? Nutmeg. Nutmeg. Yes, your namesake. So, no cats were harmed in the making of this cake. Very important note. Guess what? I forgot a very important ingredient in making cake. If you don't want bread and you want cake, you have to add sugar. I mean, the whole point of cake is to have sweetness rather than something that's savory. I decided that the best thing to do with pumpkin spice anything would be to add brown sugar. And in order to make sure it's not too sweet and to bring out the proper flavors of everything, I realize I need to also add a little bit of salt. So, definitely going to add sugar a little bit at a time until the mixture tastes right, until it tastes sweet enough but not too sweet. I want it highlighted by the cream cheese frosting. That's definitely got to be the sweetest part, not the cake itself. So, that's the plan at this point. Add some brown sugar. Alrighty. It took about a cup and a half of brown sugar to taste properly sweet, and I kept adding the half and half and the pancake mix a little at a time until the consistency became kind of like a gloopy, sticky, cake battery kind of. It will gloop, but it won't hold a point. So I think that's the appropriate thickness, hopefully. We'll see how the consistency comes out once it's been baked. So I ended up with so much batter because of continuing to add more half and half and baking mix that I changed my mind about the baking pan and decided to use a 13 by 9 instead. Otherwise this would come out way too tall or probably boil over. And I already went ahead and greased the pan. If you're wondering why it's all full of lumps. That's because I use palm shortening instead of Crisco or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to pour this in the pan, pop it in the oven at 375 probably rather than 350. What I'm hoping will happen, because I greased the pan and didn't flour it, I'm not really worried about trying to get the cake out afterwards. I'm going to leave it in the pan. I'm hoping that the edges will kind of crisp. I'm looking for a really crisp, well done outside edge. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. We'll see how that goes. It's finally out of the oven, and I'm pretty sure it's done. It has the cracks in the top, like cakes usually do when they're done. And I stuck a toothpick in it, and it comes out clean. And the first time I tried that at about 20 minutes, it was almost done, but it still had a lot of sticky crumbs on it, so I gave it another 10 minutes. Alright, and I'm back. The cake has been out of the oven for a while. It has been cooling. It is fully cooled now, which is what I was waiting before starting on the icing. And now I'm sort of following a recipe for this one. I have a recipe for cream cheese frosting here, but I'm not sticking to it strictly by the letter, because the icing I wanted to make for this cake should be more of a runny, kind of turn into a glaze as it dries kind of thing, rather than fluffy cream cheese frosting like this recipe creates. Anyway, I don't know exactly if I have enough sugar for this, but I'm gonna use what's left here. It looks like it's almost 3 cups like the recipe calls for, and recipe calls for a half a stick of butter. I have most of a stick of butter, but I was gonna supplement with maybe some water and or milk to make it the right consistency anyway. So I'll see you in a little while after I get this all mixed up. I've been working on the icing, and I wanted to show you something about the consistency. I used all of the sugar that I had and all the cream cheese and all the vanilla extract. And I did add a little bit of water because I was going for the glossy, runny look. The only thing is, it's a little bit extra runny right now, and I'm afraid to put it on the cake because I really don't want it to just run down over the edges. I don't want all the frosting to end up in the sides. I want some of it to stay on top, and especially since this is a very thin cake, if I put it on while the icing is still too thin, you'd end up with 90% of the icing down around the edges and hardly any in the middle. So right now I'm waiting for some of the water to evaporate, and when this becomes the correct consistency, I will be pouring it onto the cake, and hopefully if I catch it at exactly the right time, it will both kind of ooze out, flatten out, smooth out, and not still end up all at the edges. So what I'm pretty much looking for is being able to spoon it up into a pile, and I'm watching how fast it spreads out. I don't really have a way to describe what I'm waiting for, what I'm looking for, but my instincts will tell me, hopefully, when the consistency is correct. And if I do this right, it should smooth out without migrating to the edges. So, wish me luck. Okay, we have here the finished cake. And it looks uglier than I wanted because I had the brilliant idea of sprinkling cinnamon all over it, and let's just say it came out uneven. But anyway, as long as it tastes good, I'll be happy. And I think the icing is still a little bit gloopy, but I can't wait any longer. I really want to taste this thing, so let's get a piece. Yep, definitely still gloopy. Well, that's not too bad. Looks good on the inside. Alright, let's get a taste of this thing. Oh my god. Honey, ugly cake is still delicious cake. This is, everything I wanted. Gluten-free, pumpkin spice, cream cheese icing. Oh my god. Somebody stop me. Oh, that came out so good. I'm happy. I am really happy.